Welcome to This Week at the NCPA, where we tell you what's hot happening on and off stage at the National Centre of the Performing Arts. As far as theatre is concerned, 4 fabulous days of a fabulous play, A Small Family Business by Alan Ayckbourns. It's a 90-minute comedy. 21st and 22nd, that's Thursday and Friday, 7:30 p.m. are 2 shows. And then again, Saturday and Sunday, 23rd and 24th, there are 2 showings, 4 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. It's an NCPA production in association with AK Various. Tickets are now out on Book My Show as well as at the ncpamumbai.com site. So please go get them. And my favorite family in the business joined me to talk about a small family business. How are you, gentlemen? The Khuranas.
All good.
Very good.
Always fun to be here.
Okay, now I want to start with Akarsh, the fact that it's going to be at the Experimental Theatre, where I'm given to understand it was originally supposed to be, unlike last year where it was at the Tata Theatre because of COVID restrictions. Now, what does that mean for the audience? What changes? Can we just talk about that?
Well, I mean, see, especially that's actually a question that Adhaar is better suited to answer. But I do think that it's a play that yes, it was originally intended for the experimental theatre. It did eventually have to kind of perform in the Tata, which is a much larger space. And in that sense, there were certain calls that were taken in terms of how the production design was done, for example, or how it was played. But I do think that there is a inherent level of intimacy that you wanted, which perhaps was not optimum at the Tata. In terms of when you set out to adapt it or when you set out to write it, and there's a kind of humor that also it depends so much on the interplay between actors and the interplay with the actors and the audience, and at least the people further away in Tata are kind of more they're watching the aesthetic of it and they're watching it play out, of course, but I think the investment gets limited, and I think that getting into experimental where it originally belonged will just kind of heighten that, personally, is what I feel. In terms of what changed in the process, Adhaar is better suited to answer.
Yeah, we're going to bring in Adhaar right now. Just to add on to the information that I gave you guys at the top, it's adapted by Akarsh and it's directed by Adhaar. This is A Small Family Business. Yeah, add on to that. He's got a point. I mean, in terms of the whole thing being a very immersive experience at the experimental, how it lends itself to this particular text.
So I think because we kind of adapted it into like this North Indian mixed with Goan setting, I think it's also fun because also there are multiple characters. So I think the idea is also to kind of have made it kind of relatable in the sense that every person coming in will be like, okay, I identify with that family member, or I've seen that fellow, whether it's the alcoholic uncle or like the foodie or whatever it is. So I think just performing it in XP makes that whole experience much more easier and relatable. I think you feel like you're part of the setup in that sense, and I think because it is a family dramedy comedy, I think it helps to kind of have the audience right there with you, because I think that's happened a lot with a lot of our plays, is that I think a lot of people come and tell you that we are there, we felt like we were sitting there right with you, in the room or whatever it is. So I think it really helps, especially if you're doing something that is kind of in a setting that is familiar to people, especially this. So this is actually, it is about a joint family. It is about loud North Indians that we all love. There is also this Goan Catholic family that's interesting in the sense, and it's also like the settings in terms of the whole joint family business is something that India and Bombay have kind of like our witness are privy to quite a lot, because we have those setups quite a fair amount.
Okay, this play was first presented at the National Theatre in London, 5th June 1987. That must warm the cockles of Bruce Guthrie's heart, our resident theatre man at the NCPA. But a little bit about Alan Ayckbourns and Akarsh, how you were able to adapt it seamlessly into this milieu that Adhaar just talked about, which is the Goan Christians and the boisterous Punjabis.
So actually, I mean, Ayckbourns is quite a legend, and he's written a bunch of plays, and he's, I think, necessary reading for a lot of people, particularly those who do theatre. And I'd kind of been reading a lot of Ayckbourn, and I always found that while I enjoyed the texts very much, they were always very deep rooted into the British experience. In that sense, so it was great, and you wanted to perform them. But I think it was around the time that we were on the cusp of maybe, as AK Various, understanding ourselves, where we wanted to do slightly more, recontextualized work for Indian audiences. And therefore, we've done our fair share of, foreign plays performed as they are, with, not Indian characters or not Indian milieux. And we've done that, and everybody does that. And it's a process everyone should go through as well. But I think when we found our voice, we wanted to kind of make it more, relatable. So I was reading Ayckbourn plays all the time, hoping that, I'll find something that I can, adapt and be able to do. And when I came across Small Family Business, and I think the genesis goes quite far, long before the NCPA production happened. I think at one point of time I wanted to direct it, and I think I may have pitched it to Adhyam as well at one point of time. And then life happened, and I couldn't do it, and all of that. And then cut to a couple of years later, I discussed it with Adhaar, and that worked out. But when I read that, of course, Small Family Business itself also has very British themes, and in fact, it's quite time specific, because it's set in the the Margaret Thatcher era, and that was an important time for England. And I think that what happened is that one thing that kind of stuck out is that if you took out all the nitty gritties of the Thatcher era, there was rampant corruption, which was a commonality with India across the ages. I don't think we have to wait for an era. So, we know that exists in our country, and that was like, okay. So I was like, okay, that's one thing taken care of. That I don't have to worry so much about that, and I'll be able to find a little bit more about current stuff to. So that became something where, and more importantly, and I think as Adhaar just mentioned, is we are filled with joint families that are also business families. It's a very, like, even in school when we were growing up, like 60% of the people were going into the dad's business, right? I mean, at that point of time, now, of course, things are more accepted. But back when I was school, breaking away from that, being an artist was looked strangely upon, because, oh, you don't have your dad's business in that sense.
I mean, technically, you are in your dad's business.
Yes, I mean, both of us did our dad's business, but wasn't considered a business back in the day. Now we're trying to make it a business. But so I saw that there's so much that's already kind of, easy to connect. And I am a Punjabi married into a Parsi family. And in that sense, while there, less of them, I'm still the outsider. In that sense, and I think that the Small Family Business also had that opportunity about an outsider son-in-law who's kind of come into. Of course, it's flipped, because that's a Punjabi family, which is a loud, boisterous family, and there's this. So it was a standard fish out of water experience that we could take and expand upon, and that is where I finally found an Ayckbourn play that I thought I'd be able to, bring something local.
That's beautiful. Okay, without indulging in Gen Z speak, but still trying to reach out to Gen Z, let me just explain what he was talking about in terms of the backdrop of the play. Margaret Thatcher was known as the Iron Lady of Britain, and she took on the trade unions, was largely unpopular, but also popular amongst a certain section of British community, and likened very often to Mrs. Indira Gandhi, who is our very own Iron Lady here. The credit that must be given are, these are women in a male-dominated society surrounded by the Tories and the Labour Party and things like that. And but like Akarsh did mention, it's more about the family than anything else. And that's what it lends itself into. Okay, let's go right over to the cast. Adhaar, Samson Sequeira, a misfit, a man of principle in a corrupt world. That itself is a very juicy one-liner.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your cast, please.
So this character is obviously a bit of the outsider, like Akarsh was saying, and I think you kind of see the play through, like see what's going down in terms of the corruption in the joint family business via his eyes. Like it's you're seeing it through his point of view. So it was quite, but as in it's also kind of his journey in a sense of how he discovers everything, and then what he does to tackle that, and how he tries to rectify it, and perhaps things don't go as planned. So that was quite an interesting process. I think there's this fellow called Vivek Madan, who we've been wanting to work together for a very long time, and he's been recently been doing multiple shows of Every Brilliant Thing, which is as the in the name it suggests, it is quite fantastic. So yeah, we've had actually like a long association in terms of kind of like going to Bangalore, performing with him around. He had done Hound of the Baskervilles with us and with Dad, but me and he actually never ended up working together, barring in this kind of small short play called Kulaba Casanova, which was a very strange kind of piece. But yeah, so it was quite important, and I had been kind of picking up the phone on him on a couple of earlier things, and then I was like, let me try this time around. And he was like, look, it was actually quite a funny conversation because he didn't even ask me what it was. Like he was just like, I think the time's right. I think this has been pending, so let's just do it. Ads, I'm on. So he's lovely. He's quite he's in a sense, even though he's been around for quite a while, there's something really fresh about his energy, and I think because of his theater experience, he's quite a mature actor, and he kind of holds things together, which is important for this part, because it is the kind of crux of this character is the crux of the entire play, and he's primarily on stage all through. So whatever rehearsal process we've been going through right now, it's been absolutely fantastic with Vivek. And then the part opposite him is of his wife. He is now being played by Shikha Talsania, who, of course, we've had a long association with. She recently just directed the sequel of our hit play, Dekh Ben. So yeah, and I've directed her in a couple of plays earlier. So that's comfort. Like it's quite easy, and she's kind of like very good at playing the foil in a sense. Like I think there's something quite fantastic about her in the sense of that she's very giving as an actor, so it doesn't need to always be like that character needs to be in the spotlight. So that way she and Vivek are playing off each other fantastically, so it's all worked out very well. Of course, there are some AK various regulars like Kashin Shetty, Lisha Bajaj, who are always quite delightful to work with. We have this new fellow who's I don't know how much theater he's done, but this guy who we worked on with in Mismatched, Abhinav Sharma. So he's quite frenetic, and he's got this crazy energy. He's playing the part of Samson, Vivek's brother. So yeah, so it's quite an interesting mix. And there are 13 people on stage. There are 3 actors that we kind of worked with on Go With The Flow, which is who we found through the audition process that we had done earlier for the play, children's play. So yeah, it's actually quite an interesting mix. I mean, till now, touchwood, it's been all going very well, and they're syncing with each other.
And Vikash Khurana would be the uncle from Nasik, Akarsh?
Nagpur, yes.
Nagpur, sorry, yeah.
Yes.
I remember meeting him after one of your plays and having a very interesting backstage discussion with him.
He's playing the father-in-law character, and he's kind of like the head of the family, who's kind of now handing over the baton to Vivek's character Samson. So he's quite fun. Yeah, and this is the first time we are working together.
Lovely. Now, I also understand that the script has become tighter and there are some changes since the last run. Yeah, so either of you can take that or both of you can take that. What are the changes that you are talking about?
Well, I think one of the great advantages of theatre is that it's something that, kind of continuously evolves. The one best thing that we keep talking about, particularly when you worked across mediums, is how between shows and, you can keep fixing stuff. I think that in every play, the first 10 shows kind of go in the process of tweaking and fixing and nipping and tucking till you hit a sweet spot in that sense. And I think what happened is that this year we had a bunch of 6 shows, and then there was a gap of a year. So not only was it like what our learnings from the first 6 shows that we wanted to incorporate, it was also, I think, enough time passage for a new perspective. It was not only audience or feedback led. Of course, we took all of that into consideration, and there was the sense that perhaps it was a bit long, and we wanted to kind of tweak that a little bit. I personally had a little bit of a see, because at the heart of it is the journey of one man. At the heart of it is how a man goes through a certain change in personality in terms of growth. For me, I was always like, this is a play that should happen without an interval. Because I felt that you're invested in this man's journey, and the moment you go out for a break, you kind of lose that momentum. You kind of forget which chapter of his life you're in. You come back and you kind of you're not seeing that transition, which is quite subtle. We're not seeing it in its totality. So for me, that was always a bone of contention. And then hence the length had to kind of be looked at. I think there were references that perhaps that we had kind of put in the writing that don't always land, or you want to update them because as make it more concurrent, make it more relevant. And I do think somewhere that one thing that happened was that while it was funny and it was great fun, and everything was I think somewhere there was a spine of the story that was perhaps getting a bit lost in the chaos. It was entertaining, it was a great ride, but perhaps the take home wasn't as potent as I would have liked it to be, personally speaking. And you've seen a lot of AK various stuff, and what we like to do is that we like to give you a really good time, but we like you to leave with something to think about.
Yeah.
We like you to leave with something that lingers. And I feel like maybe that balance was a bit skewed. So for me, in the editing down of it, I think we kind of distilled it to kind of make it a little bit more wholesome in terms of that target.
Okay, good news for all you theatre lovers. There is going to be another catch-up on a small family business on this week at the NCPA, this particular program. We're hoping to have Vivek and Shikha along with Abhinav and Garima, or either Abhinav or Garima. So we chat with the cast and get their perspective on things. Meanwhile, tickets are out at Book My Show as well as at the NCPA Mumbai website. 21st, 22nd, it's a Thursday and Friday, 7:30 p.m. And then 23rd and 24th, that's a Saturday and Sunday, 4 and 7:30 p.m. Two showings. This is at the Experimental Theatre at the NCPA. Please go watch, give it a lot of love at NCPA Production in association with AK Various Productions. Brothers Khurana, thank you. Such a
Thank you
pleasure.
so much.
See you soon.
Always.
All right, so it's a show called This Week at the NCPA. And if it's theatre, then it's got to be at the NCPA, done right at the Experimental Theatre. Ask these people, because they started off at the Tata Theatre and they've moved to the Experimental. A small family business by Alan Ayckbourns. It's a comedy, 90 minutes. It's at the Experimental Thursday the 21st and Friday the 22nd. There's just one showing at 7:30 p.m. And Saturday and Sunday, which is the 23rd and 24th, have two showings each, which is 4 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. It's an NCPA production in association with AK Various Productions. And we spoke to Akarsh and Adhaar, the Khurana brothers, one of whom adapted it and the other who directed it, and now it's the principal cast. Hello, Vivek Madan. Long time. How are you?
Hello. Very long time. All well. How are you?
Very well. My dear Shikha, how are you?
Very well.
And Garima, hello. How are you?
Hello. Wonderful.
Okay, so I think a nice place to begin would be the move from Tata Theatre to the Experimental. And as actors, there's obviously a little bit of a limited space there, but at the same time, you would know, you are theatre people. They tell me it's more intimate because the audience is right up there. You want to start? You want to take that first, Vivek?
Sure. This is a nice googly question to start with, Hrishi, because none of the three of us were actually in the shows that happened at the Tata. So comparatively, we don't have a lot to say about this particular play. But
it's a whole fresh new cast, and the Khurana brothers never told me that.
It's not a fully fresh cast. I think what they're doing is they've kind of reimagined the play because of the change in venue. So the script has also gone through a refresh of sorts. It's far more, I think, in your face in terms of both the humor as well as the tragedy of it, because this play treads that fine line and shows the absurdity of basically an audience enjoying someone's fall from grace. essentially. And that someone would be me in this case. So, yeah.
Samson Sequeira, a man of
Yes.
principle in a corrupt world.
It's perfect casting, Hrishi. What can I say?
So Garima, you have such a beautiful voice. Do you get to do some singing in this one, or is it just the acting?
Oh, thank you so much. No, but I am pregnant in this play, so there'll be a little bit of pain sounds. But that's been one which might be musical. But that's a lovely new challenge and something that I've never played before. So personally, for me, that's wonderful. And that's my character, his daughter.
I think, Shikha, to me, what is really fascinating is, it's originally a British play, which is set in the 80s in the United Kingdom, and how easily it lends itself to the Indian milieu. I want you to talk about that a little bit, please, and how, you've adapted it into this whole Goan Christian married into a boisterous Punjabi family.
I'm representing the Punjabis here in this play. Also, I think where we get lucky is Akarsh. I think I have been lucky enough to be in plays that he has adapted. And he's just great at it. And I think we kind of understand each other and kind of Indianize it even more. So yeah, it's pretty fun. And that humor is great. And I get to play with all these wonderful characters like the ones who are sitting over here, especially husband Vivek Madan. So that's a lot of fun.
Okay, so you play husband and wife, which is Vivek and Shikha.
Yes.
And who are the two daughters? Who play the two daughters?
Garima is our
Garima.
The
eldest.
pregnant one would be Garima.
And the
other one?
elder daughter. And then we have Naughty Natasha, who is played by Vrinda Kakkar. We are their two daughters, extremely different and extremely what you would say a wonderful, the archetype of the younger sibling, elder sibling relationship, which I'm sure a lot of people will see and relate to and feel like see themselves in.
I have a nice little note that says, Samson is approached by a private investigator armed with some compromising information. That would be?
Well, we are not really going to reveal that at this point. I'm sorry. We'll have to come to the NCPA and find
An
out.
entire character who is shrouded in secrecy. But really, the fact that Samson Sequeira is going through what he's going through is really a comment on the times. And this could be a fascinating story premise in any decade, isn't it? Which is an honest guy who's trying to make it, and then people berate him and say you're a bit of a loser and things like that. So talk to me about getting into the skin of the character. Talk to me about what you really enjoyed with Samson.
So I think, Shikha said it at the beginning. I think the adaptation is very clever and it's quite spot on in most places, which gives us a lot of room to play with as actors. And given that it is a farce in some sense, it's not a true farce because there is a high amount of pathos in this, which I suppose brings the humor out all the more. We get to fool around a lot on stage, ad-lib, improvise, see what fits, see what works, see what makes the relationship stronger and more honest. Because the more honest the relationship is, the funnier it's going to be. At least that's the hope. So when it comes to playing a character as timeless as this, as you put it, I think the uniqueness for me is in the room with this set of actors and this particular director who is really quite nuts.
So Shikha, what does she think about her husband? What is her opinion at the core of her being about this man?
Sorry. I just want to add to what Vivek said. Yes, everything that he said is very correct, but he's also a batshit crazy man and a crazy actor. So what's coming out right now in the rehearsal room is just like, what? Where is this coming from? This is amazing. Yes, come, let's play. what she thinks, what Maya thinks about her husband is that she loves him very much. He's a lovely, nice, the nicest and the most honest and the most upright human beings. And he sets, he has this, he has morals and principles that he really likes to stick to, and she admires him for that. And but sometimes it gets annoying also, na, to be married to a man who is just so correct all the time.
And you're no stranger to playing boisterous Punjabis.
Yeah.
And it must be so enjoyable. Do you get to mouth dirty words?
No, I
Abuse,
don't
yell?
actually.
You don't?
Not this time around. Not this
That's
time
good.
around.
That's
I don't.
good in a way, because then you break away from the cliche of a Punjabi. Yeah.
This time I'm showing you the Sabhya and a little classy Punjabi.
Well.
Who has
South
to
Delhi.
deal with this
South
Delhi?
Delhi.
South Delhi, here I come. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, pretty much the same question to you, Garima. What does she think of her father?
Oh my God, he's insane. But also, again, to add, like, just the stuff that a lot of it, of course, is just like Vivek's genius and like how we just have to sit and like react to him. I mean, of course, she thinks that he's not cool and cracks really lame dad jokes. And of course, they all know his set of morals are very strict and he's a very righteous individual. But I think the daughters know more than him. Like, he's so pure, it's almost like a weird coming of age for the dad, because I think everyone else seems to kind of know that this is not realistic in the real world. You have to sometimes bend the rules, bend your morals a bit. So they're a little like, they're frustrated, but they're like, you can't be like this all the time. You have to live in the real world. So yeah, that's kind of where Lara's coming from.
And Vivek,
So well answered, Rajiv.
yeah, well done.
Thank you, Uma.
Vivek, theatre veteran that you are. I mean, are you a fan of Ayckbourns' work? Have you read Ayckbourn before? I would like to know.
I have.
Just what you feel.
I have, and I also read the original play of this particular, the original script of this particular play, A Small Family Business. And I have to say, the play was written in the 90s, and it is quite British. He's
I think more
he's a genius,
80s.
man.
I think it's more 80s,
Was it 80s?
because
I think it might have been performed in the 90s.
It premiered at the National Theatre, London, 5th June 87. Yeah. So
Oh,
thereabouts.
sorry. Okay.
Yeah, late
There we
80s.
go.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, late 80s, early 90s. And reading the original, you really get a sense of how he's slowly building this character's eventual degradation, in his moral turpitude and the conflict that he faces, by setting him up so nicely at the very beginning. And then slowly we watch him fall, and we're like, dude, you should have seen this coming. We saw it coming, and now we're just going to enjoy you slip and slide all over the place. It's he's really got a gift for that, Alan Ayckbourn.
I like the fact that we're dealing with what is a very relevant issue in a farcical manner, Shikha, because there was always, and I don't think it has changed too much. In school and college, we were like, this is a bholu guy in our group. The guys would kind of say, they're pavam types. The girls would say, come on, man, grow some. And I think now, as we progressed and as we get older, we start advising our so-called Bhola or Bholu Nandan friends about how they must smarten up and wisen up and things like that. It's almost as though simplicity and honesty, which were supposed to be great virtues, are not great virtues for creating wealth, and I think this play is a wonderful way of looking at that. I wonder if you have a comment on that.
No, I completely agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. And to play, to see it play out with the humor that is there in this play is the fun of it. It's the absolute fun of it. That's all I wanted to add to everything else that you've said.
Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that? Telling this whole thing through humor, as opposed to only telling it the straight way, that in itself has just added layers to it. Garima.
Definitely. And I think that's again where the wonderful Khurana brothers, Akarsh first with his adaptation and Adhaar with the execution, they're so good at that because their theater, they're like wonderful theater for years and years is so, they're so good at this, where like bringing out, you don't even realize that you're soaking in all these themes and you're thinking, but it's through humor. So I think that's the best way, because we're not like telling audiences, come sit, we will sermonize or anything. We're going to entertain you, and then you'll think, which I think that's so wonderful, and that's the genius of Akarsh and Adhaar.
Vivek, you have so many friends and admirers in Bombay theatre, man, whether it's Q or the Khuranas and this and that. Why don't you just pack your bags and move? In any case, you seem to be spending a lot of time there. You have.
He has.
So
now
the going to Bangalore is more like a pit stop, and Bombay is home.
It's like going to visit parents and coming back. That's it. That's pretty much it.
And that must make you very happy, because like you said, you felt a bit of a lull in Bangalore, and Bombay is always more robust in that aspect, isn't it?
Yes, there's just a lot more just in terms of sheer volume of stuff, and of course in the kind of variety of things that happen. And it's, I think, only a place like Bombay where, for me, speaking personally for myself, I can say that 4.5 years of doing a solo like Every Brilliant Thing,
yeah, of course,
and then jumping straight into a farce like a Small Family Business, where there are other actors, all of whom are so good and so giving to create this wonderful matrix of absurdity. It's it's lovely.
I think a nice way to bring the curtains down on this interview would be talking about the Experimental. If you guys have performed, any of you have performed there. If you haven't, then any other theatre in the NCPA complex. And since the show is called This Week at the NCPA, I think it would be a nice way to sign off. Shikha.
I actually have been very lucky to have performed in all the theatres in the NCPA complex, and Experimental is always special. It's also where I've had my first off-stage accident while getting off-stage. Yeah, so it's got my blood on it.
So you really, you were in a sling, a plaster after that? Yeah?
No, just some stitches.
Stitches.
Casual.
Ouch. Yeah, that's pretty unforgettable. and the expanse of Tata vis-a-vis the intimacy of Experimental. Shikha.
The thing is that I feel that as a Nautanki and as a performer, मुझे कोई भी stage दे दो मैं खुश हूँ. Be it the 4th seat, the 20th seat, or the 100th seat, I have to entertain everybody. So I'm just very grateful to have opportunities where I get to perform on all these wonderful stages.
Lovely. Garima.
Well said.
Garima, have you performed at the Experimental before? If not, any of the other theatres in the complex?
So I have been lucky enough to perform at the Experimental a couple of times in my not so many years of experience. But I think the cool thing about it is, like the name dictates, you can experiment and you can do all kinds of productions. I mean, I've done smaller productions with maybe a little smaller sets and stuff. So it can be intimate or it can be very grand and vast. The space lends itself to a lot of different sort of genres and sets and stuff. And it's always a really lovely experience. And it'll be super fun to return with such a large set and large cast. And I think it'll be madness.
Lovely. Vivek?
The Experimental was the first venue that I performed in Bombay 20 years ago.
Oh, lovely.
So it's a very special place for me. I have also done the round at the NCPA itself, but XP is very special for its intimacy. It's just such a black box gives you a different sense of being in an audience, and I think it gives you a unique connection that you don't quite get on a bigger stage.
Lovely,
so
and
I'm looking forward to it.
That's where you're going to catch these three and wonderful cast. A Small Family Business by Alan Ayckbourns. It's a 90-minute comedy, 21st and 22nd. That's the Thursday and Friday at 7:30 p.m. And Saturday and Sunday has two showings, 23rd and 24th, 4 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. Tickets are at Book My Show as we speak. They're also at ncpamumbai.com. So you can go either to Book My Show and ncpamumbai.com. It's an NCPA production in association with AK Various Productions. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Shikha. Thank you, Garima.
Thank you,
Rishi.
Thank you so much.
94.3